Goodness. All right, Aladdin, we're going. We're good to go here. How you doing, man?
Doing good, thank you.
All right, Lauren, what's your question here?
Why are you making trading cards?
Um, so I've got three kids at home, and they are stuck on the computer all the time. Yes,
I know that
living.
pain.
Hey, look, it's not just me, and I'm doing work too, not just gaming, right?
Yeah, that's what my kids say when they're doing their homeschool work, and I find them on like YouTube or yeah.
Yep, same pain.
hmm So I needed to find ways to get my kids off the computer for one, and I wanted to find ways to draw as many people out of the metaverse as possible. So these trading cards were created in a physical way, because learning about Bitcoin, you're learning about something digital. And we are already so soaked into the digital world that I wanted a way for people to learn about the digital world, but I wanted them to do it here in the physical world. And one of the things that I really enjoy is conversations with my kids and the family. And these cards are a great way to sit at the table, to we do homeschool events all over the place, and it's really fun to like bring these cards out and have the kids ripping them open and talking about Bitcoin, talking about freedom, and all the different topics that we're as Bitcoiners really excited about. And the artwork really helps that, so I go like really crazy on the artwork and try to have a lot of fun with that. So they were really created to have something fun to be able to do in Bitcoin outside of the internet.
Awesome. We need some. I've actually seen some. My friend Nathan bought a packet for his son at Adopting Bitcoin London, I think. Was it adopting or was it advancing Bitcoin in London? And he ripped open a packet, and sure enough, I think he has a silver tone vase on his hands.
Yes, that was a very popular video in our group. His expression when he found the tone vase card was priceless.
So
You haven't shown me this.
I haven't shown you the video.
No.
I've seen the actual card. Nathan and Sam showed me the card.
Yeah, okay, but you haven't still shown me the video. That's no excuse.
He literally almost passed out. It was great. He just like when he found the tone vase card, he threw himself back on the couch and was like, "Oh my God, tone vase!" So that was pretty epic.
I mean, you could get that for like someone's Christmas gift, or since you can't find a Christmas gift for mommy, I'm not sure she'll be all that excited about it, but
Yeah, I don't think she's gonna be happy with her.
Well, I have a care package for you guys. So once we're done, we'll send one out to you, because I've got a very special care package for the family, so you guys can enjoy these.
Oh, thank you.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
looking forward to it. All right, well, thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to
Bye.
meet you too. Have a good podcast. I'm keeping the chair.
Yeah, okay. All right, man. Well, yeah, we've got some things to discuss. You've already mentioned homeschooling. So we do the same kind of thing. I mean, it's a broad term, right? I love the way Scott, he put it, Bitcoiners are homeschoolers that just don't know it yet, and vice versa, right? Homeschoolers are Bitcoiners that just don't know it. And so what happened for you first? Where I mean, was it Bitcoin first? Was it homeschooling first? Like what was this progression for you?
So it was definitely Bitcoin first. I wanted to homeschool the whole time, but my wife didn't want to take on that challenge, basically. And I've always been an entrepreneur, but the different businesses I've ran, I haven't had the time to. A lot of them were out of the house to the point where I couldn't help out enough to make that happen. So in 2019, I'd already been in Bitcoin since 2016. So in 2019, I was seeing all the flags. I mean, it was written on every door, on every wall. There's something crazy that's coming, and it's going to come really soon. So at that point, I started stocking up. I wasn't one of those toilet paper stalkers like a lot of people, but we were definitely putting the rice and beans away and just trying to prepare ourselves. But most importantly, in my opinion, at that time was for inflation. I saw we were headed down a really bad path. I've been seeing that for a long time, but when when a vast majority of executives started leaving their jobs in 2019, I think it was around 1,000 executives leaving their posts in 2019. That was my big super aha moment of, holy crap, it's on its way and it's right around the corner. And then the beginning of 2020, we started getting the news about the sickness. So at that point, it was yank them out. So I'd say the beginning of 2020, after Christmas break, was when they just didn't go back. And at that point, like, let's figure out what we can do. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew something was on its way. And I honestly didn't imagine it was going to be the sickness and the way that they were going to do that. I just knew something was coming. So we immediately yanked our kids out of school and started homeschooling them right at that moment. Wish I could have done it sooner, but.
Right. What age were they at that point?
So my youngest was in the fifth grade, and my oldest was in the seventh grade.
Oh man, that means nothing to me. What's this in years?
Okay, so I believe it was 10 and 12.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Nice age to do it. Yeah. And this is the thing that I found from this podcast and meeting the plebs at different conferences around the world. People that come up and tap me on the shoulder and say hi, we can get into all kinds of different discussions. But one of the most common threads is this. They're like, man, I didn't even know you could not send your kids to school. And I know when I have kids, well, they ain't going. There's no way. I've listened to your podcast. I've listened to your interviews with other homeschoolers, or like Peter Gray or Pat Faranga and the other people that have come on that have been in the space for a long time. So Ken Robinson as well, really fighting the battle. These people that are out there. And just recently, Ana Lorena Fabrega and discussing her book. What's your message to the plebs out there that, because it's such a broad term, isn't it? Homeschool. People get stuck right there immediately because your programmatic brain, the brain that you've been, living a linear life on, walking their path, you just immediately go to mom and dad sitting at the kitchen table, or I don't have time, or I'm not equipped, or I'm not smart enough to teach my own kids. What are all these fears that you faced, and how were you overcoming them?
So for me, I don't think there was so much of the fear personally, because I opted out of school around the sixth grade. So
nice.
So I knew that you don't necessarily need schooling in order to be successful.
And I love the fact you said opted out, not dropped out.
Yes. I think that's a very important one, because that it gives you the confidence in your decision. Dropping out has such a bad term to it. So it really is. Yeah. And it was the best thing that I ever did. And it gave me the ability to focus on what I was passionate about and what I had my most strengths in. And I think that's one of the biggest missing pieces in schools today, is you're trying to teach such a broad education to children. You're missing where their strengths are. You have some kids that by the time they're 8 years old, they can sketch and paint better than most adults. And then you have some kids that can't make a stick figure. So and that's just a natural a part of each person. We all have these amazing strengths in us, and being able to focus on those strengths is going to give people the opportunity to do something amazing for humanity. But pushing them away from their strength is going to take away from that amazing contribution that they can do. So for example, when we're doing mathematics, we do Algebra 1 year after year, mainly because my two sons, they are not into math. That's not their thing. And their strengths are in different areas. So I go, well, I know people that have started out on Algebra 1 and they've went all the way into calculus and so on, all the way into college. But then if you bring them back to Algebra 1, they couldn't do 90% of the math problems. So for me, it was, well, basic math is the most important. And if we go so far out this way that you can't even complete a basic math quiz, then what does it matter that you can do calculus unless you're specifically going to a field where you need that education? So let's just focus on the basics. And that's the greatest part about homeschooling is you can focus on whatever you want and make sure that at the very least, the common sense is there. And I think that's the most important thing for all of us. And that's probably one of the most missing pieces. Critical thinking and common sense is a thing of the past. So I was very confident about homeschooling my kids. My wife, it was different. She wanted to, but she had all the fears, like you said. We're going to be sitting at the kitchen table. I don't know how I'm going to be able to teach them this. Where do we find the time? But once we started doing it, it was absolutely incredible. And the kids just immediately were happier, healthier. They're not eating school lunches. They're just all the way around well-rounded, wonderful, happy children as compared to when they were being shoveled off to the indoctrination camps. So the greatest thing was my wife finding homeschool groups. And that's a whole nother topic we can get into, but homeschooling is not what people think. There is amazing communities out there, and we've met some of the greatest people we've known through these homeschool communities that we never would have met if we hadn't started homeschooling our children.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so true, like about just the change in, well, yeah, they're not being force fed the crap at the school lunches, the seed oils and whatever else, right? This is like literally, I mean, okay, to be fair to France, we were in France when the kids were in primary. So we've done a mix. We've done world school, unschool, self-directed, state school, private school, Montessori, beach school, like the whole freaking gambit, right? Now in the state school here in France in primary, it's all good. You know, the lunches are cooked on site, fresh food and whatever else. But then you get up into like the older schools, and it may as well be like, I'm sure it's the same as prison or hospital food, and it just from one company, you know, that just delivers to all of these different institutions. Like, so cutting that shit out of their day, and then sleep, like waking up naturally is so underrated. What are we doing to kids if we are gently shaking awake a 6-year-old to make sure they're up in time to have had some seed oil breakfast cereal, to have brushed their hair, cleaned their teeth, got into some god awful uniform, onto some bus, exhausted? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
It's so basic. Like,
it really is. Again, that comes back to just the common sense and critical thinking that is fully missing across the board. Because most people, once you finally dive into homeschooling and you see how happy your children are, and it's not because they're not having to go to school. It's because, again, like you said, they're getting a full night's sleep. It's empowering your children to make a lot of their own decisions and not feel like they are immediately structured into what most people have to get ready for the rest of their life. So when I was in the 6th grade, I wrote in one of my class projects, I wrote a letter to Bill Clinton, and it was on homework. And it was this whole breakdown of like, okay, so we have to get up first thing in the morning, get ready, brush our teeth, go to school. We're in school for 7-8 hours. And then after that, we come home. And unless we're really, really good at our homework or schooling, we have anywhere from 3 to 4 hours of homework to do. So my entire day is just based around work for this school. And again, most of these subjects and topics we're not going to use in the real world. It's just absorbing our brain into constant propaganda. So we're being propagandized from the moment we wake up, honestly, until the moment we go to sleep if we have a television in our house. And we wonder why people cannot think for themselves.
Precisely, man. All right. Okay. Let's go to our first soapboxes because we could probably talk about this all night. But yeah, it's like I said, it's heartwarming for me that people are getting the message and really thinking about it. And I hope that more Bitcoiners around the world, especially those having babies right now, look at all you ladies on Bitcoin Twitter. I don't know what's in the water out there at these conferences, but go for it. There's a lot of Bitcoin babies coming. Please don't send them to a state school. That's our message, I think, our joint message. So the playing cards, man, you're sitting there, I assume, thinking like all of us do at some stage, I got to be a bigger part of this. I can't just be lurking here on Bitcoin Twitter and, dunking on no coiners. There's got to be a bigger picture.
Yeah. When I found Bitcoin in 2016, I was so, it was more moving than anything I'd ever done, because I grew up in the cannabis industry and I saw injustice and just how broken and corrupt the system was my entire life. My dad red pilled me 5-6 years old, and he was letting me have it, all of it. So I understood how broken everything was growing up. I was a part of I lived through obviously the 2008 financial crisis, but in that I was actually into real estate at the time and knew nothing. My dad warned me over and over, son, it's going to collapse. It's going to be all gone really soon here. And no, Dad, I'm 26 years old. I know what I'm doing. There's no way that's going to happen. And yeah, it collapsed really quickly all around me. And when I started discovering that how the bailouts were working, I'd already understood that it was broken. Watched the zeitgeist many, many times growing up. So living through that and actually talking to the bankers and seeing just how disgustingly corrupt it was, I had no faith at that moment. And my hope was, for the most part, gone at that moment for humanity. So finding Bitcoin was, it reinvigorated my hope in a way that I never thought possible. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. Everything I did was just enveloped into learning as much as I could about Bitcoin, the financial system. It was very highly addicting. So obviously, well, what do you want to do at that point when you're super passionate about something and it gives you hope? You want to tell everyone about it. So I was becoming a Bitcoin evangelist to all of my friends and family at very little success. So I needed to come up with a way that I could successfully teach my friends and family and anybody and everyone I knew about Bitcoin, because I could never shut up about it. I'm that annoying Bitcoiner that when I check out of the grocery store, I find a way to bring up Bitcoin. Every single waiter that as long as my wife isn't already frustrated with me, I bring it up to the waiter. I'm trying to tip in Bitcoin. But it's really hard to get someone, again, away from the indoctrination and give them a 30-second elevator pitch that's going to get them into Bitcoin. It's nearly impossible. So that's where these trading cards came in. It was, well, how can I start a conversation with somebody about Bitcoin without starting a conversation with them? Because most people don't have that time. When you're tipping your waiter and you want to talk about Bitcoin for 5 or 10 minutes, they're like, I've got another table, and they're not going to tip me because you just took 5 minutes of my time and they're still waiting on their drink. Same with a bartender or just about anybody out there. It's really hard to spend enough time with an individual in a quick moment to give them a good enough elevator pitch for them to actually check it out. So this is a way you can hand them a pack of trading cards. And I saw that so many people jumping into shitcoins, so many people putting Bitcoin and shitcoins in the same category. It's hard to describe that again in 30 seconds, the difference between the two. And so many people that I knew that wanted to be a part of Bitcoin and in their opinion, altcoin, shit coins, whatever you want to call it, at the same time, but they didn't want to download the wallets. They didn't want to get into the technicals. I grew up in the country, so I deal with a lot of my friends and family that are more farmers and country people. So if you can get them to take a chance, then you have a big opportunity with everyone else that are already in the digital world. So these trading cards is a great touch point for them to feel like they are now taking part in this evolution of Bitcoin coming around. And they don't have to download a wallet. They don't have to learn anything technical. They don't have to jump and watch a podcast or anything like that. You just hand them a pack of trading cards that most people are used to. And that nostalgic feeling of holding a pack of trading cards and ripping it open, you don't know what you're going to get. There's something really magical about that. And then the greatest part about these cards is they specifically teach you why Bitcoin, and in its own roundabout way, without trying to be an overbearing parent, why shitcoins are not the way, why Bitcoin is so different than every other investment out there. And these investments are more of a gamble, and know the difference between gambling, investing, and saving. So all of these topics are really boring, and most people don't want financial advice from a random person who's checking out at a grocery store, or even from their best friend. Giving financial advice is very, very difficult to do and not trigger somebody, especially when they think that you are, I mean, a lot of us Bitcoiners, it's really hard to come off in a way that catches their attention without coming off like we know better than them, especially when you're giving financial advice. So this is that, here's a pack and take it on for yourself. And I was teaching Bitcoin for a few years, preparing for this project to get as much feedback as I could on how to create this project. And the biggest one that I learned is, if you allow someone to come to you with the questions, you're going to get a lot further than you needing to spark those questions to them right off the bat. So that's where these cards have worked out great, because then I get the calls later on and they're like, hey, this particular card, I'm not into Bitcoin, but you know, there was a really good point about taxation is theft, or I thought communism was actually a good thing, because when I watch television and all the commercials and all these newscasts, and I honestly thought that communism was a positive. So learning all of these different topics in there, it's like the Bitcoin standard. It's only 20% Bitcoin and 80% why Bitcoin. And that's one of the greatest successes of this project, is not making it solely focused on Bitcoin, and having so many different touch points that for us as Bitcoiners, what was it that brought you into Bitcoin and inspired you to want to learn more? It wasn't because you learned how mining works or some of these key parts of Bitcoin. It was something else in your life that sparked that interest to make you want to start learning about mining and learning about Bitcoin. So that's really how I designed these cards, was making sure there was as many touch points as possible to hopefully spark something in you to want to learn more.
Well, excellent work. It's clearly, it's struck a nerve with many people, and we'll get into, you know, how you're selling them on all of that. But a few things you mentioned there, which I want to come back to. Getting red pilled at 6 years of age. I mean, what was the old man telling you? Like, was he handing you like all the good stuff, films, books?
Yes. So growing up on the farm, no television. My dad was still to this day highly against television. He's also a cannabis farmer. So seeing him rolled away in the police car at a young age for literally growing, at the time, this was 3 plants in the backyard. And this was obviously long before anything was legal, but yeah, 3 plants in the backyard. And we've got 4 or 5 police cars down our driveway. And we lived directly across the street from the school. So I remember the day I think I was in the 4th grade, watching the police cars roll down our driveway, because you could see it from the window of my classroom. And I'd already understood before that, because Dad always told me, if the cops come, lock the doors. And so understanding that we cannot trust the people that are there to protect us at a very young age, that made me question a lot.
3 plants. Like, what? How did anybody know that there were three plants in the backyard?
We just happened to have a neighbor that was a game warden. So he was basically a cop in the US in a lot of ways, a federal officer in some ways. So I don't think it was him. There's many stories about it, but one of his officer friends came over to visit and smelt it. My dad's a very good grower, so they used to call us the skunk farmers. They'd say that to their children. No, they just farm skunks over there, honey. So the word had gotten around quite a bit that the smell coming from our little property was either a lot of skunks that we were going out and killing, or someone was growing cannabis on the farm.
But that turned into a business in the end, like no problem farming it.
So it went legal in California. We were at the forefront of what they call Proposition 215, started around 1994, went legal in California as a medical use in 1996. So around that time, I think I was in the 6th and 7th grade. So I was going to these different meetings and learning about it, because we had many friends throughout my childhood come from different areas of the world, suffering from some really bad medical conditions.
Mhm.
And it was really hard to get good, clean cannabis. So seeing people that were in a lot of pain from the moment they walked in to being able to relax in a way that they hadn't been able to do for many, many years with the pain that they were dealing with. For me as a young kid, it was very moving for me to be able to see that and recognize that this was not something my dad was doing so everyone could just party and have a good time. We had some amazing friends show up, a lot of people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, that it was life-changing for them. And I many discussions that I would sit around, I really enjoyed listening to people that had experience in life, even at a very young age, tell their stories. My dad is a storyteller, so I enjoyed that at a young age, listening to these stories. And I don't know what it was that clicked in me. I mean, I grew up around in this little town. The drug epidemic was really bad, and everyone knew everyone because it was a population of around 1,500 people. So when you'd see someone get a drug addiction, and think about it, this was early 90s is when the opioid epidemic started, and prescription drugs on top of methamphetamines was getting really big. And in the city, I think it's so spread out and there's so many people, you don't know everybody, you don't see it quite as much. But in a small town setting, you see the difference between this person that I've known for 5 or 6 years, that's an average, normal, nice person, to Faces of Meth. I don't know if you ever looked at that website, but you have people that go from being a normal person to within 5 to 6 months, they look like a zombie. And seeing people that I knew at a very young age go through these transitions incredibly quick, there was something really wrong with this. And I did not want to suffer that same fate. So I think I don't know where it came from, but I was mature enough at a very young age to go, if I watch someone else make a mistake and I listen to their story about this mistake, I don't have to make it. And I'd like to make as few mistakes as I possibly can in life, because I really don't want to end up like that. So that's where I think a lot of the storytelling to me was so important, is going, again, if I can learn from their mistakes, those are mistakes I won't have to make myself. So my ears were always open to the stories that were going around me.
You heard it here first. Don't do eth, kids.
Yeah, opiates, any of that shit. Yeah, stay clear. It's horrible. Yeah,
Man. All right. Okay. So that would definitely have put you on the right path for being orange pilled when Bitcoin did come and present itself to you. So how did that happen? When did that into your life? 2016, you said, but you get a few looks at it first.
Yeah, I had someone hit me up in 2012 and made an incredible offer. I had one of those where I could have done really, really well off of that. I honestly looked back many times and I'm like, did I do it? There was so many things going on back then, and I literally dug through drawers looking for a paper wallet that I might have gotten, because I couldn't remember if I actually like accepted Bitcoin from someone at some point, or I was always into research. But no, I'm just going to tell myself I didn't, so I don't feel bad. But I had one touch point 2012 with someone offering me Bitcoin for trade, and I passed it up because that individual didn't explain Bitcoin to me. It was just digital money. This is the new thing. It's an investment. And at the time, I was trying to, honestly, I was little bits of silver and gold that I could stack, wasn't making a whole lot of money. So if I could buy an ounce of silver or save up enough to get 1 ounce of gold, then that's where my mindset was, is physical. Along with the trading cards, getting out of the metaverse as much as possible. So to me, the first touch point of Bitcoin being digital and me not being a big fan of television and computers and all that, I just completely passed it up. And then in 2016, it was a good friend of mine that I've known since I think the 7th or 8th grade that goes, Alladan, you've got to check this Bitcoin thing out. And then at the time I was having some back issues. And then I went to my chiropractor, and the chiropractor was like, oh, have you heard of Bitcoin? So that was my second touch point within maybe a 2-month period. So I go, okay, there's got to be something to this. And then that's where I started diving down the Bitcoin rabbit hole at that point.
Man, we've all got those pain stories. So TV, why was your old man completely against it? I find that very interesting, because John Taylor Gatto, who you've probably read, he's another guy that just like, this stuff is evil. Frank Zappa as well, I think he sung about it. Canute always regales me with the lyrics. People were ahead of their time when they saw this thing entering into our front rooms.
Yeah. So it's with my dad, I think there's a few things. I think for him, if you'd see my dad in front of a TV, it's really crazy. He can walk through a room and there's a TV and he goes, and you're like, Dad. And then finally he's, oh God. So he was like, this thing it hypnotizes him. And he could see how, like, just with himself, how hypnotizing and mesmerizing that television was. And growing up on the farm, it was get outside, go on a hike, go, like, if you're hungry, we live on a farm, and yeah, there are certain points throughout the year where we don't have fresh fruits and vegetables, but there's food somewhere. So even though he wasn't a really avid book reader, he just loved the outdoors. And that's one thing you're not going to get with the television. And I think that was a big part of it, but he understood the propaganda. Growing up in the 60s and 70s was his main time. He saw the propaganda incredibly thick. I could tell other stories about it, but I don't want to dox my dad. So I guess we'll just say he really understood throughout the Vietnam War and everything that was going on that this shit is not right. This is fake as all hell, and we do not need to participate in this horrible destruction that's going on, because we are all sheep, and the number one sheep herder is the television.
Mm-hmm. Still is, man. Well, it's even worse now because we have these devices in our hands all day. And like same with you, I catch my kids looking at them. I'm like, turn that thing off. That is melting your brain. And like, oh no, it's okay. It's just a YouTube short. I'm like, freaking turn it off, please. This isn't good for you. It's just nonstop.
For me, I tell my kids, because getting them off of it is nearly impossible unless you're like my dad and you just take it all out of the house. But then you create an animosity if they've had it. And like with my children, when I tell them to get off, they literally are like, how dare you?
Yeah.
What did I do? Am I in trouble? Like,
mm-hmm.
No, you've been on the dang thing for 6 hours. Get off. And they think about it like I'm in trouble and my dad's being mean and how dare he? What did I do to be in trouble and be punished by being removed from the television or the computer? That's a really sad and dangerous thing. So you have to find the balance in there, because if they've had it and you just strip it, then your children are thinking you're punishing them. And what are you punishing them for? So the animosity that's created there is a dangerous one. So I try and push, and I'm not as successful as I'd like to be, but I try and push, if you are going to be on the television, the computer, whatever it is, why don't you watch something that may give you some insight, maybe give you some education? There are, obviously, we watch podcasts all the time. There are a lot of amazing educators out there. So why don't you at least try to balance it out and put something on that you may actually get something from? And it's hit and miss. Once in a while they get into something. My son started learning origami, which was really cool. So a lot of that was, he got a girlfriend and he wanted to make her some little presents and different things. So if you can, at least, because taking them away 100% might be not impossible, but detrimental to your relationship with your child if they've already had so much of a connection with it. So the only thing I can say is try and find things that, at the very least, if they are going to be on there all the time, maybe there's something they can watch that they can get something out of, instead of just mind warping crap all the time.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And YouTube Shorts are nowhere near as bad as TikTok, from what I can tell. So I think we've got to, yeah, I think that's gone now, thankfully. But yeah, it's impossible, mate. Like it ain't going away. And when, we're going to sound like old geezers moaning, but to do the same to us would have literally just been taking one thing out of the room, right? The television. There wasn't anything else. And if you were lucky, you had a games console you could plug into that one television, right? Now, everyone's got multiple devices. They're laying all over the place. There's always something on. There's always something being streamed in. But yeah, to your point, we try and do the same thing with documentaries and, like, just something. Use it. It's a tool. Don't let it own you. You own it. Make it do your bidding, not the other way around. Falls on deaf ears, man, all the time. And one day they'll get it, I suppose. This is in 10 years' time, they'll be like, oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, I can see why they were saying that.
Yeah, the rude awakening is when they finally step out into the world and get their job, their first job, and understand that 8 hours, and then they get home and I only have enough time. And I tell my kids this all the time. You're only going to have enough time to get ready for the next day and do it all over again. But until you actually have to do that and experience it, they have no idea. It's really hard to get children to understand life after home, after being a child. And you don't want to throw them into that too early, because you want them to enjoy their childhood and be as happy as possible. But one of the things that just for example, for myself, we wanted to give our kids every opportunity and give them the best childhood possible, which is great, but they haven't had to suffer, which is a good thing. You don't want your kids to suffer, but at the same time, they're not prepared for heartbreak. They're not prepared for the reality of life. And then when they get hit with it, what are they going to do with that? Like the first time, I know a lot of people in their 50s even that have never lost someone really close to them. I don't think anyone should have to lose someone, but it's part of life. Losing someone really close to you for the first time, even in your 30s or 40s, it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you really, really hard. Losing a pet, even losing a job, dealing with a family member or a loved one with a drug addiction. There's so many pain points in life. And no, I don't want people to have to experience these pain points. And the last thing I want is for my children to have to experience these pain points. But the scary thing is that they haven't, to the point of when it happens, it's going to be really, really difficult for them the longer they have to wait in life before that happens. So like your heart being broken by your first girlfriend. Now, if you've dealt with a heartbreak throughout your childhood, it could even be your pet passing away. The loss of someone doesn't have to be a human, and it doesn't have to be a death. It can be my best friend moved away. Spent my whole life with this person. They're my best friend in the whole entire world. and now I'm 12, 13, and they're moving away, and I no longer have my best friend. That can be similar to a breakup. Many things that can cause that pain inside you. If you haven't dealt with that at all, and then all of a sudden you're 18 and your girlfriend breaks up with you, oh, it's the end of the world. I'll never live again. I'll never be happy again. I'll never meet someone else. This is it. Mom and dad, there will never be another woman in this entire world for me. I'm going to live the rest of my life single. Well, you're 18. No, that's not going to happen. But they don't understand that because they've never experienced it. So that's the scary thing for me, is if we set up the world in a way, and that's the metaverse that I see happening, where people are living inside this metaverse and it's all fake. And if their friend is on the internet and that's their best friend in the world, there's a chance they never have to lose their best friend, because they can always connect with them through the internet, no matter where they're at in the world. So we're creating a comfort. And I think that's probably the key word right there, is a comfort that most people are in, that is making it to where when UBI eventually most likely comes and they push socialism and all these other things, the majority of people are going to go, well, it's probably going to be the easiest way I can stay comfortable. If not, then I'm going to have to go get a job and work double time, and I'm going to have to sacrifice these comforts I've had throughout my life, or I just let the government take care of me and I can continue with my comforts. I don't have to leave my home. I can literally just do the same thing I've been doing as a kid, where most kids live in the metaverse. So I can just continue doing what I've been doing for 18, 19 years. Stay at home, watch television, play my video games, and chat with my friends around the world. Because honestly, I don't have any friends in the real world. All of my friends are on the metaverse. So, I mean, that sounds like a dream. And that's the scary thing that I think they have been doing a very good job of, is creating a vast majority of people that now live in that metaverse. And it's going to be really scary for them to leave that comfort zone.
It's dystopic, mate. It's so and now with all the goggles and glasses and stuff that are being pushed out there.
Yeah. Daniel, you'll own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, of course. Eat the bugs. Yeah, man. Ugh. All right, back to the cards. And I forgot to shout out Kisa, who's put us together. And what's the team? You've got a couple of people working on this? I mean, who does the artwork? How does the whole project come together?
It's a lot. So I wasn't expecting it to take off quite as quick. 4 years working on this project. And when I launched, I had one partner, and we just really wanted to have fun orange pilling people. We didn't know where it would go or what it would do. And it took off like gangbusters. It was amazing. Good problem to have. So now it's, where do we go next? And
did you launch at a conference or just online?
Yeah, Pacific Bitcoin 2022.
Okay, so Pacific Bitcoin, you rock up, you've got a booth, or you just handed them out? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I was able to reach out to a couple of really good people over at Swan, and they took a big chance on us, which was amazing, and hooked us up with a booth. And we ended up winning one of the art competitions, so we could have an art booth as well. I didn't know what to expect. It was, at first, the conference was really good in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it's such a new idea and a new concept. And with shitcoins and NFTs and all the rest of the crap out there, it was a hard sell at first. There's a lot of people coming by and going, I don't understand. Why do we need trading cards? I don't get the purpose of this. But then most of those people have now come back and said, oh my God, what was I thinking? I should have grabbed these cards right off the bat. It's really time stamping this moment in time with these trading cards. They are all a piece of history now, everything that we've done, and we're time stamping the history as we move forward. So doing the conferences is, to me, the coolest part, because I mean, what do you take home from a conference that you end up keeping for many, many years that doesn't have a shelf life? There's not a whole lot. My wife hates it when I come home with goodie bags from the conferences, because she's like, you'll never do anything with any of that stuff, and it's just going to be pushed from this corner to that corner. But you can bring home a pack of Pacific Bitcoin trading cards, You don't ever have to open the pack if you don't want. You can literally just collect a pack at each conference, save it unopened. They look really cool on the wall, and that's your little commemorative piece from that conference. And I think that's a big need right now, is for us to be able to start collecting these pieces of history. If we are successful in what we're doing in Bitcoin, this is the biggest evolution that's ever going to happen in world history. So having a little piece of that is very important. And to be able to go back and go, I was at that conference this year, 2018, 2019, 2023, whatever it was, to be able to look back and go, yeah, son, or yeah, honey, my daughter, whoever it is, I was at that conference back when Bitcoin was just a joke and a fad, and everyone thought it was rat poison 2.0. And they're like, no, you weren't, Dad. And you go, no, you know those Bitcoin trading cards? I have the pack from that conference. I was there. I think that's one of the coolest parts about it. So the launch there was slow, but then within a few weeks after, it just blossomed. And the team that I've put together on this since has been incredible. Really just volunteers in the beginning, because again, this was bootstrapped. I don't have any investors or anything. It was put everything in and hope for the best. So the help we've gotten has been incredible, and it's been some wonderful people that we really love the idea of this project, and they're behind it and doing all they can to help make this come to life and be something that we can actually move forward with. Because the possibilities we can talk about later if we have time, but the potential and possibilities of bringing Bitcoin to the masses with this project, bigger than I ever imagined. And I think that's the most magical part about it, because I had these really small ideas of what this could do, and we've only been out 1 year, and the connections we're making and the possibilities ahead for next year alone, incredible. I could have never dreamed this up. If you would have told me these at the beginning of the year when I started this project, I would say, Daniel, it's never going to happen. Thank you for your confidence, but that's never going to happen. So pretty amazing where we're at right now.
So you launched Pacific Bitcoin 2022, the same conference that Orange Pill app launched. So there's two Bitcoin companies that have just flown out the gates in the last year, and it's been awesome to see close up Orange Pill app grow. But now I hear your success as well. And I was talking to Ivan Medonsky the other day about his job at Breeze, and how he got out of a fiat role into a Bitcoin role by adding value. And it is true for anybody out there listening that the minute you put your first foot forward and take that perceived risk of trying to build on Bitcoin, whether that's playing cards, podcasts, YouTube videos, music, animation, whatever, right? You're building on Bitcoin if you're doing something for Bitcoin with integrity and with the right reasons, to educate. You are going to get swept up so quickly by the community and elevated to places you thought were going to just like, boy, I mean, I experienced the same. I couldn't believe it. Within like 2 months of some of the people that were coming on the show, I'm like, what? How? Like, what is happening here? Like, and it's still, I still have to pinch myself. Like, this is amazing. So it's great to see that you did that. So the potential then isn't just handing around cards and making money. There's something else here that you clearly want to discuss.
Yeah. So PSA is a validation and verification company for trading cards. So they're the biggest one in the world. So if you get a pack of trading cards and maybe you bought it on the secondary marketplace, you bought it off eBay or wherever it is, it could be a pack of trading cards, it could be one particular trading card. Well, first off, you want to make sure that it's real, and you want to validate that that is from the company that produced that trading card, because there are knockoffs out there and people that are scandalous and do stuff like that. And then there's the other part of going, okay, well, there was X amount of these cards produced, and how many of them got trashed? How many of them were opened by kids that just threw them away and or beat them up, shoved them in their binder, or just stacked them in their drawer? So not only are you trying to verify that this is from the actual company and it's a highly rare card, but you want to verify that this is a really mint condition card. So you send it off to this company, PSA, they validate it, make sure it's from the actual company, everything is exactly what it's supposed to be, and then how perfect is this card? How mint is this card? Because there's only so many, let's say there's 100 of these cards that exist, but how many of them are in mint condition? So then they will go through and they've got their checkpoints of making sure that there's no scratches, all the edges are perfect, there's no blemishes, no fingerprints, no oils on the card. I mean, there's this huge process to make sure this card is perfect. And then once they give that grade on there, they'll put it into a locking case, and then they'll put a code on there, and it's been verified, validated, graded, and sealed in this case forever. Pull it out of that case, well, you wasted your money because the grade is gone and it doesn't mean anything anymore. But inside that case, you have a third party that has given their sets of approvals on this card. And let's say you get a 10 out of 10. Well, there may only be, out of 100 of those cards in the world that exist, 2 or 3 or even 1 of those cards that's in mint condition, a 10 out of 10. So we just got this company to validate us and put us on their website. Massive for our project. It does many, many things for Bitcoin specifically beyond our project. As collectors throughout what they call the hobby. So in trading cards, they call it the hobby. So in the hobby, it doesn't really matter whether you're collecting a Bob Ross trading card to a Pokemon to Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, there's thousands of different trading card projects out there. And if you're a collector, you're collecting all over the place. And then what are you doing most of the time with it? You're sharing it on your social media, sharing it on podcasts and Reddit and forums and to eBay and to all these collectors sites. So by creating this Bitcoin trading card project with all the education in there, now all of these people outside of Bitcoin or even inside of Bitcoin, especially now that we have PSA, which is the #1 grading company in the entire world, boom, validated, they can take these cards, whether they've been validated or not, but with that validation, and start putting them out there on eBay, on forums, all over the place, reaching people with Bitcoin education we never thought imaginable. Because there, I call it the Trojan horse in so many ways.
I was going to say, please tell me you've got a Trojan horse card. That's got to be done.
I think it's such a Trojan horse that I don't want to do a Trojan horse card. It's really special to be able to start seeing these popping up all over the place, and especially like the tyranny cards and the government cards, and we've got the currency cards. So we did the Hungarian Pingo. So many different cards that are highly controversial. The taxation is theft card is pretty controversial all on its own, but seeing these pop up all over the place, into homeschool groups, into so many categories outside of Bitcoin, is the most special part about this project. One of the videos that we did, I don't know if you've watched Kinetic Finance with Julian. You've seen him. He does TikTok videos. And okay, so when we're out of here, I'll send you a link to him. We've been working with him. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And what he's done is figured out a way to match the algorithm and the style and the comedy of what these kids are watching on TikTok and bring that over to Bitcoin. And he's just done the most brilliant job ever with it. So of course I'm doing everything I can to work with Julian. And he came out with a video the other day for us, and it was like, you can either give your parents a 2-hour Michael Saylor podcast to listen to for the first time getting into Bitcoin, or you could just hand them a pack of trading cards and get them started in a really fun and simple way. And at the dinner table, instead of getting into this big conversation, you're like, hey, everybody, I've got these trading cards, we're all going to rip together. And most people at one point in life have open trading cards. And I can say from experience that I've opened these trading cards with a lot of older women in their 50s, 60s, 70s that really enjoy it. And they're like, I've never opened a pack of trading cards in my life. And like, they're truly enjoying this experience of opening these trading cards. They've seen kids do it, their husbands or whatever it is, but getting to do it themselves, it's really fun. And it's quite a dream to see just how enjoyable these trading cards have been, from children to people all the way up in their 80s. And I think, again, this is the Trojan horse that is going to start bringing more people towards, not, I guess my main point, and I'll stop ranting, not just to Bitcoin, but to freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Without freedom, Bitcoin means nothing to me. Other people can argue that, that's fine. My own personal opinion. Bitcoin means nothing to me if I don't have freedom. So even if people do not start to adopt Bitcoin off of these trading cards, even if all they get out of it is communism and socialism is bad,
Yeah, that'd be a good starting point.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm thinking right now, for any of the plebs listening out there that have some of these cards, should they just mail them in to PSA to have them appraised? Can we like kickstart it that way?
Yeah, I think that the more people that do it, and we're going to start talking about this more and more, the more people that send their cards into PSA, the more PSA is going to go, holy crap, this is a real project. This is the real deal. I mean, thank God we gave them a chance and did this, because it cost them thousands of dollars out of their own pocket to put us on there, and the time and energy and everything else along with it. And they don't get paid unless people send cards in. So they took the risk on us. So yeah, the more people that do that is incredible. It'll bring us up in the algorithm. When you go on PSA, which there's literally millions of people weekly that go on PSA, if Bitcoin trading cards is at the top, then they're going to start looking into, okay, this is a real deal project.
So if some people have these cards unopened, can they just send the pack in to PSA and the person will open the pack individually and just they're mint without even going too far into the whole process, and they get like framed up? Or
no, you want to send one card at a time. There's 9 common cards and 1 chase card, so 1 foil card. And
in every pack, right? Is that how the packs are? Right. Okay. So 9 common cards. And well, yeah, okay, let's go through the pack. What's a common card? How do you guys think about this?
So a common card, let me see if I have one here. A common card is a card without foil. So would you like to rip a pack with me right now?
Yeah, go for it. We'll put it up on YouTube as well. Yeah.
So nice. We'll see what we get out of here. I'll try to keep this in a separate spot, and I'll send
it. Do you know like the science behind this? Because I've heard once upon a time, and I remember specifically as a kid over here in the UK, we would have what they call panini stickers for football stickers, and especially World Cup, right? And the World Cup would come around, and you get the squad, and you'd open the pack, and it was, I guarantee you, it's a certain thickness, and it makes a certain noise. And I honestly, are they packing smells in there, or did they just smell that good? I don't like. It was just like amazing. Every time you open one of these packets, there's got to be. It's like when you open a pack of Doritos, right? They know what they're doing. The scientists there. It's made to crumple a certain way. It's made to feel a certain way. Other people should hear it.
Yes, there's definitely a science behind it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Have you delved into it, like what they do?
So I think it was more, I don't think it's so much something new. I think this is something that was created many years ago, probably the late 70s, early 80s. 80s was when they started mass producing trading cards like never before. So I think around that time, it was put in. I think a lot of it has to do with the wrapper more than anything. I think the majority of the science is in the wrapper itself. It's that crinkling sound, they call it ripping wax, because the way that they heat it together at the top, you can see there's a little bit of wax there on the, and that's really what gives it probably a little bit of that smell. Maybe there's some pheromones in the wax that they use that could potentially be, but a lot, yeah, it's in the wrapper. If you don't have that crinkle in the wrapper and that feeling of tearing the pack open, that's, to me, that's 90% of it right there.
All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're ripped open a pack, and then this is what you get. You get 10 inside.
Yes. I'm going to make it easier for me to get this camera down. Okay. So we've got the FOMO card.
FOMO card. Lady standing at, it looks like Katie the Russian, her silhouette. She's looking at the sunset.
Hmm.
I can't
And
even
she's
see. Was
locked
it say on the
indoors.
bottom there? Fear of missing out. Right. Okay.
So she's locked indoors, staring outside at a family out in the water on a boat, enjoying themselves.
Mm.
And then on
What
the
would be
back,
on the
it
back of that card?
gives you a brief description of FOMO.
Huh. And the QR
And
code.
yes, the QR code will bring you to the website. We're working on a whole educational set over there. That's what Kisa is helping out with, so that you can get started here. And then if you want to know more, you can go to the website and start learning more about each of these subjects.
And we should
And then
we should shield Kisa's book, The Simplest Bitcoin Book.
Yes.
It's awesome.
And she is the most amazing person ever. And the greatest thing that Kisa did with this, and it just shows the type of human being she is. She created this book to teach more than anything. And by putting it on a PDF for anybody to be able to download and learn from, it just shows the type of person she is. She's so incredible. And the book is one of the best learning. If you're going to give someone a start, this is a first touch point. Kisa's book should be the second touch point to just about anybody coming in. And then you start listening to podcasts like Daniel Prince and all the other amazing podcasts out there as your third touch point, and just start moving your way up. But I think that's one of the biggest things, is we need to create these beginning touch points. What are the steps and stages of our Bitcoin journey? And if we throw someone down the rabbit hole, there's a chance that they just crumble and smash the walls on the way down and they don't make it out alive. But if we gently hand them a rope and slowly let them down that rabbit hole, they're probably not going to hit the walls, and they're going to land gently at the bottom. So that's what Kisa has been able to do, is create a touch point that I think just about anybody getting into Bitcoin needs to follow that book and download the free PDF and give her a like and a follow. It just helps more people find it. So yeah, thank you, Kisa.
Excellent shill. Right. So what else we got in here?
This is from Series 2. That's a Corey Clipston.
A Corey Clipston card. Okay. He's
He's the
dunking on FTX by
MVP
looks of things.
Yes, he's smashing the backboard of FTX, Celsius, and Terra Luna. And then that's
Awesome.
the most valuable Bitcoiner of 2023 or 2022. Sorry. And then on the back, it gives you a basic breakdown of Corey Clipston, and then it gives you a signature line. So if you run into him and you want to get your signature at a conference, it's just a great way to meet Bitcoiners out.
Oh, you can sign them. Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And then, so we call it Bitcoin Warriors because Bitcoin teaches you to kill your heroes. So I don't think we should be holding anybody up to a certain pedestal. I think there are a lot of amazing warriors in the space that are doing great things and helping to move Bitcoin adoption forward. But I will never be throwing out the hero cards or anything like that. We need to really educate across the board the ethos of Bitcoin and so many things that we've learned, and try to pack them into these cards as much as possible. So we have the Bitcoin Warriors category, which is a very important one for people to understand, and to go straight to Bitcoiners that are not going to take you down the shitcoin rabbit hole and shill you a bunch of crap. We only put people in the pack that want to be in the pack. We'll reach out if they say, yes, let's do it. We do it. We will never put someone in that doesn't give us the thumbs up, unless maybe they have already passed and we can't get that approval, or maybe it's the next series coming out, which is Warriors versus Villains. And I don't think some of those people would really want to be in the pack the way that I'm going to describe them and portray them. So this is from the Fudbuster series.
Right.
And the Ponzi card.
Yeah.
So it teaches about why Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme. Oh, and then here is our special card. Right there. So this is the foil.
Big Sean.
Big Sean Harris.
Big Sean Harris. That's the foil. Love it.
Yep. And that's a Bitcoin athletes card. So that we
Right.
can start branching out and getting the kids to understand that there are some amazing athletes that have been accepting Bitcoin as payment. And I mean, some really, really big players in the world that are doing this, which is really incredible. So this is another touch point to where people are going, okay, well, I'm not really interested in the Bitcoin trading cards, but then they start hearing that some of their favorite athletes are in the cards, or athletes that have now retired, but having them in these cards is very special because they have not been mass produced like any other ones. So,
And do you
yeah.
have to get there? I'm guessing, I mean, it's a stupid question, I suppose. You can't just print that card. You got to get like written permission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even from the plebs, like you've got to approach the plebs and say, listen, this is what we want to do. You can't just print off a sailor card and say, yo, we've got a sailor foil card. You need
So
his.
you can, to a point,
Mm.
because I have a competitor that came out, long story for a whole nother podcast. But this competitor came out and literally copied this project, other than the fact that they didn't implement it very well. And they added shitcoins, which is worse because they call themselves educators and financial education, but they're shilling Dogecoin and Ethereum. So a lot of issues I have with these guys, but they put in Sailor and they put in Elon Musk and they put on, and I can guarantee you that Sailor never gave these people permission to add them their shitcoin trading cards. And I can guarantee you that Elon Musk never gave these people approval either. So I think to a point you can, or I don't think they would have done it because they've been producing trading cards in other ways for years. But for me, I would never do it. The only people that I would ever put in the pack without permission would be some of the villains that need to be represented at some point. But other than that, anybody that's in the space that we would like to represent, there's no way I would put them in without their blessing and really wanting to be a part of the project, especially with the signatures. The last thing I would want is for someone to get one of their cards, run into them at a conference or wherever and say, hey, I've got your trading card, I'd love to get your signature. And they go, I never gave permission for that. What is that? I didn't even know that existed. That would not just be embarrassing for them, but it would be highly embarrassing for us. And community first is my biggest thing. The last thing I would want to do is embarrass someone in our community or do anything in a shady way like that. So
Low time preference too, right?
100%.
Build it out with integrity and humility, and they will come. So
Yes.
what's the price of one of these packs, and is this something is this going to be changing? Are you going to be able to, like, as you grow, you're going to grow the team? What's the roadmap?
Yeah, definitely working on growing the team. Everything is moving so quickly. I'm still doing the majority of everything myself. All of my team right now lives in all parts of the world, all over the place. So getting actual help at the office in person has not happened yet. So hopefully I can eventually get someone. I live in California and no one wants to live in California. So I don't want to live in California, but it's kind of where I'm at right now. So the help that I have is different parts of the world. And the last thing I would want to do is move them to California to help me. Probably not one of the, I mean, the weather's great, but other than that, we've got a lot of issues here. So as we build the team, hopefully one of these days I can move to a place where I can get a little bit of on-hand help. The people we have right now are incredible. We're dialing in the team to really be able to come out next year, throwing as many amazing punches and kicks as we can to really get this thing out to the mainstream. We've got a couple incredible things on the way for next year that I don't want to say right now because we're still in the contract stage. But if we're able to pull this off, might be one of the biggest educational pushes in Bitcoin yet. For the
I'm just
amount
thinking,
of
like, get into a Comic-Con or something, or one of these like huge, crazy conferences that I know you have over in the States. We don't have them so much here in Europe. I don't believe. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but like, yeah, you have those crazy cosplay type things, and it just looks crazy big.
We've already created costumes. So I don't know if you've seen it, but if you watch us on Twitter at all, we've literally went out and reached out to Emmy award-winning costume designers, and we have brought in 2 characters to life. I'll show you because it was the next card coming out. So this is one of our versions of Satoshi, and this is our Bitcoin versus crypto card.
Right.
So that's Satoshi. throwing a deadly punch to Ethereum there. And that character we've actually brought to life. So it's a 7-foot tall life-size costume that will be already been walking around 2 conferences. We did Pacific Bitcoin and Unconfiscatable. We have Mother Satoshi, which is Lola Burnett, an absolutely amazing person. I don't know if you know Bob Burnett, but Barefoot Mining. He's one of my advisors, just the most incredible person I've ever met. We turned his wife into one of the characters. She's a professional bodybuilder. So Mother Satoshi was created out of Bob and Lola's and our collaboration, but really their baby there that just insanely incredible. So now we have Lola walking around in the Mother Satoshi costume from her card. And these are, the things we're going to be taking to Comic-Cons, collector trading card events, hopefully sporting events, and really, again, push this in a way that hasn't been done before.
Homeschool conferences. Yeah, you can hit them
absolutely.
all, man.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So artwork, how do you get this done? You have just like one idea and somebody using AI? Like, what's the word?
So no AI. I'm an artist myself, and I use AI to come up with some ideas and get a little bit of like some creative ideas on how something might look. But I don't like using AI because I've met so many amazing artists around the world where this project has honestly changed a few lives with the amount of artwork I'm able to hire them to do. Especially, we've got a friend that lives in Indonesia, and this has completely changed his life because now he is working full-time for us. And what he gets paid off of this project is life-changing for where he lives in Indonesia. So I don't want to just jump on AI and slap something together that is computer generated. Again, I'm not a fan of the internet to a point. I'm not a big screen person. So using actual heart and soul and the passion of an actual individual is really important to me. So everything you see is generated by a human soul and a human hand. And I think that's incredibly important. So I call myself the architect at this point. Originally, I was doing a lot of the art myself, but there's no way I could keep up with it. So I started just doing basic sketches, getting the concept out, getting the architecture out of what I wanted to do. And then I've got a team of artists from around the world that have their own styles and their own way of conveying their art. And whatever I've got kind of imagined in this design that I've done, I go through my portfolio of artists, and then I reach out and I'm like, this is the one that I want to be able to pull off this particular artwork. And it's been a lot of fun working with all different artists from around the world, and we'll continue doing that. Making sure that, as you see behind me, I want every piece to be a work of art. I want you to be able to not just think the art is really cool on a small trading card, but I want to blow it up life size. I want people to be able to eventually get posters and put this artwork up on the wall. I mean, we've created so far a couple hundred completely unique original pieces of art. And there's a lot of people that are like to a particular card. They absolutely love it. So being able to eventually offer posters for people to be able to put that art on their wall, I think is really cool, especially for the kids.
So what's the scarcity aspect? Do you just run a whole different kind of pack every X amount of months or something? And there'll only be X amount of silver foil cards? Like what's that?
We are right now, as far as I can tell, one of the scarcest trading card projects ever printed. You get little one-offs that are printed here and there that may be around the scarcity that we do, but for the most part, any project that takes off, they go pretty crazy and they're printing. We do 21,000 packs a year of the main series, which is the Orange Pill in a Pack series. That's the Fudbuster is the theme. So every year we come out with a new series, 21,000 packs with a new theme. So the first one was Orange Pill in a Pack. The one we did this year was Fudbusters, and the next year we're doing Warriors versus Villains, and we'll just keep changing the theme each year, and they will be totally original art, new foil cards. Once we create a foil card, like you have this particular Sean Harris, there's 500 of these that exist. It's numbered on the back, so you know what number you got. and there will only be 500 of these Sean Harris cards ever produced. Now, we may do another version of the Sean Harris card down the road, but this particular one, that's it. And compared to other trading card projects, the spread out of different characters and people is probably 100 to 1,000 times more spread out than any other project. For example, Pokemon prints an average of 1 billion packs a year.
How many cards in a pack?
10 on average.
My goodness.
Yeah. Enough trading cards for everyone on the planet to have at least 1 to 2 trading cards a year. And that's on average. There's times and years that they've hit 4 to 5 billion packs in a year.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. So the greatest thing about this probably teaches scarcity right off the bat, because you start hearing the numbers and you're like, oh, 21,000 packs. That's really scarce. I wonder how many cards Pokemon produces and everything else. So that's one of the things we're working on right now, is being able to give all of those numbers and the research behind it, so they can go and verify that these are the true numbers, getting it from Pokemon directly, getting it from Panini and Topps and the big companies, not just giving our random numbers, but actually pulling it from what they are coming out and saying they're producing, so that you can compare it. I think is really important, because what's one of the biggest things that brings a lot of people to Bitcoin? Scarcity. So there's another Trojan horse in this, is just learning about scarcity will start to spark your interest on, okay, well, if that's the case with trading cards, then maybe I'm starting to get what they're saying about money being printed the same way. And now maybe Bitcoin does make a lot of sense, because Bitcoin is very similar to the way these trading cards work, and it's hitting them on their own level. Hitting them it's with something that they already understand. Don't try to change the game and teach them something brand new. Hit them at where they're already interested in what they already understand.
I've used that Pokemon example to explain it to my kids and other kids, or anyone really, or the Panini football stickers. It's like, right, okay, you're the kid in the playground. You're the only one with the silver, whatever Pokemon character. Like that, you can now exchange that for probably 5 normal cards, right? What happens overnight if Pokemon print another 1 billion of those silver cards, and everybody's got one on the playground the next day? And they're like, oh, right, yeah, no, it was not special. I wouldn't be able to swap it maybe for 1. I'm like, right, okay. You got debased. You see? Like
Exactly.
That's what happens. So, all right, you must have seen or heard some stories of people already trading out of these things rather than hodling, which again is a rabbit hole in itself for the early Bitcoin adopters, right? It's if you found that paper wallet, you think you'd have been sitting on a fortune, but the reality is, if you'd have found it, you'd have probably sold out immediately and not hodled, and you'd still be kicking yourself for all of your actions. I'm sure the same is happening with some of these playing cards already, just 1 year in.
It's again, it's completely unexpected, and that's really the magic of this project, and the story we'll be able to tell many years from now, because we've had a few people literally relate it to the early paper wallets that were being tossed. For example, when I launched a Pacific Bitcoin, I created 2,000 packs that were Pacific Bitcoin commemorative packs. And there was only 2 different foil cards. You either got one or the other. And I gave those packs away. I think I have 2 packs left for my own personal collection, but I gave away 1,998 packs. Because I gave them away, people didn't see the value in them. Maybe the same with Bitcoin in the early days, when it was worth 10 cents to $1, $5. You've got 100 Bitcoin, it's worth $100. It's never going to be anything. And they toss that paper wallet. With these packs, something very similar happened. And I especially didn't imagine that they would have much of a value to them, because I gave them all away as a gift to everybody. And if I would have known anything of what happened, I probably would have saved at least more than 2 for myself. But because we gave them away, most people threw them away. They gave them to their kids. They just disregarded them. They have now become some of the scarcest packs of trading cards I've ever produced, because no one can find them, because the majority of them were tossed. These packs unopened on average are worth anywhere from $600 to $1,200 in Bitcoin. Yeah.
And how much does one pack retail for? If I'm in a conference and I come and find your booth, that I can just buy a single pack, how much does that retail for?
So we've got different levels, and it just comes down to the scarcity. If you're going for the orange pill in a pack, that is $29 a pack. If you're going for a commemorative pack, that's $36 a pack. So 21,000 packs produced, $29 is what we're retailing them for. 2,121 packs is $36 retail. 1,210, just constantly staying in that 21 number. Those actually retail for $121 a pack. Yeah, the rarest of the rare. But then we have what we created called the Genesis packs. And the Genesis packs retail at $5 a pack. And if you are running a homeschool group, or you are doing anything in the space trying to put out Bitcoin education, working on Bitcoin adoption, maybe you run a meetup group or anything like that, reach out to us and we will basically give them to you at cost, which comes around $2 to $2.50 a pack, depending on shipping and what we have to do. But those are the Genesis packs. Those are the ones, because we had a lot of people that, well, I just want the education. So that's where we created those, so that now there are no chase cards in them, so you don't get any shiny cards. And we're working on trying to find a middle ground of that, to where there's still a shiny card, because we had kids in Peru that were opening packs and they were loving them, to the point where I was like, oh my God, if there was a shiny card in there, I think they all would have like started. You have to watch the video. It's on Twitter, but Kinetic Finance did that video in Peru. But those are the packs that is, if you're just looking for the education, you're not worried about collecting, then those are great. And the crazy thing is, Daniel, we produced 100,000 packs. So even though they're not collectible to the point of there's no chase card in there, if you look at the number of the common cards compared to a Topps or a Pokemon or a Panini, they're still incredibly collectible. And the price at $5 to half of that, if you're trying to use them for Bitcoin adoption, is the cheapest collectible trading card you'll ever purchase. So we're trying to make sure we have options at each level. You have all the way from the crazy extreme collector that wants the rarest of the rare, all the way down to people that are going, I'm not even into collecting, I really just love the cards because it's a really fun way to teach people about Bitcoin. So we're trying to make sure we hit all levels in there.
Awesome. Get in touch with Matteo from Orange Pill app, because we've
been talking a lot. He's great.
Good, because we have the events tab on there, and big push for plebs to start meetups. And how do we get them the tools? You know, this is a tool. It's great. We can put $100 behind a bar or something, buy the first beers or whatever. But to have something like the card shipped out, to say, listen, here's a pack, hand it around, give the bartender some, like whatever. And the same with the books, you know, talking with Nico from KONSENSUS Network, how can we get some books shipped out? How can we champion the event organizers? You know, those people that are building on Bitcoin, that are taking that first step, putting that first foot forward, start a meetup.
Absolutely.
You will be championed. Yeah.
I'm working on something to start gamifying the meetups with these trading cards, and hopefully I'll have something in the next couple months with that. But I helped start a meetup over in our local area, and I've had a lot of ideas on that of how to push the attendees of these meetups that are Bitcoiners to start going out and bringing more Bitcoiners to it. And I have had a lot of people reach out and say, I don't try to orange pill in the bear market, it's just too difficult. Or I've been trying to teach Bitcoin to people for so long and it just doesn't go anywhere, so I'm over it. We need to reinvigorate that. Two things on that I'll say real quick. One is, you really want to orange pill people in the bear market. If you want people to have conviction and you want them to stick around, you need to get them in the bear market so they actually feel the rise. Otherwise, orange pilling them in the bull market, they're going to have such a small dose of it before they start seeing what they consider profits, because they don't understand 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin yet. So all they're going to get is that little bit of an adrenaline rush, feel really good, and then all of a sudden go, oh, well, I didn't make anything on this. Everyone, oh, this Bitcoin you talked me into, and their conviction is not going to be there. So right now is the time. It has been the time since we started dropping. When we are rising in Bitcoin, I really stop to a point really trying to get my friends and family, because then that's where they come back to me and they go, you got me into Bitcoin at $56,000 and it dropped all the way down to 16 grand. And you go, well, it's at 40 now. I was at 16 grand. They're not going to look at where it's at today. All they're going to keep in their mind is I bought at 56 and at one point it was 16. I lost all my money. So I think it's really important to find ways to start teaching orange pill skills. Like, how do we start teaching the Bitcoiners out there how to start to teach people about Bitcoin in a way that's going to build conviction and going to draw them in at the right time for the long run, I think is very important. I say it like this: giving a proper orange pill is the most important thing that you will ever do for somebody, because if you screw it up, they may never come in. And that's a dangerous thing to put on, most likely, someone that you care about. The last thing you want to do for someone you care about, if you're truly a Bitcoiner, is teach them about Bitcoin in a way that jades them and makes them never want to be in Bitcoin. So take that responsibility incredibly seriously when you are trying to orange pill somebody. It's not a joke.
And if you had one last orange pill left to give to somebody, who would you give it to and why? You set me up perfectly.
If it was a true all-in orange pill, I'd say my kids. Not that they're not into Bitcoin, not that they don't believe in Bitcoin and what dad's doing and everything, but they're kids. And that can be from one day to the next. So if it was really, you're set, you took the orange pill, you're in, then obviously take care of family first. So I would say my kids.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And that is the final question. That's where we always end it. So I really appreciate you coming on, but let's leave with a rally cry to the plebs. How can they help you? How can they add value? What's 2024 looking like? Where can they come and find you and interact and buy some of the cards at one of these conferences?
So we'll try to be at as many US conferences as we can. We are still a total pleb company, so funding for this is very, very tight. We just do what we can to make it work. Hopefully you find us we'll be at BitBlock Boom, we'll be at Nashville. We're really hoping to make it to Prague, all fingers crossed, and doing everything we can to make that work, but it's a long shot. You can find us on Twitter, BTC cards. Same with the internet. If you want to go to the website and support us by purchasing some cards, I don't shill the cards. I stack sats before packs. That's my saying. So and if you're buying them for yourself as a collector, hopefully you've collected a hell of a lot more sats to begin with and play around with collectibles. I don't tell anyone what to do with their money or their Bitcoin, but stack sats before packs. And if you've got something left over and you want to collect some fun cards, then we greatly appreciate the support. The biggest thing that anyone can do that I do ask for, it's completely free. Throw us some retweets, throw us some likes, and just help the algorithm. I have said many times in this podcast, I don't like social media. I don't like the internet. This is not my forte. I'm learning all of this as I go, and I'm not going to shill, and I'm not going to go out there and push the sales of this. I want it to organically do what it's going to do because people love what I'm producing here. So if there's anything that people can do to support us without ever spending a dime, just throw a retweet. Hashtag Bitcoin, hashtag Pokemon, like whatever little creative thing you can get into to start sparking these cards over into the hobby and other areas would be greatly appreciated. And it only takes a couple seconds of your time.
And for conference organizers, I think it's a great thing for them. How much would it cost to buy a couple of boxes? No, I know. However many they need just to drop one pack in a goodie bag. So if there's an attendance of 3,000, what would that cost a big conference organizer they've got the good sponsorship money. I know these things run a pretty tight margin as well, but there's usually, this wouldn't be a big outlay, I don't think.
No, so I mean that's where the Genesis packs come in, because the Genesis packs I can produce affordable enough. I can print a big enough amount of them to get the cost down to where it definitely makes sense for these conferences to do that all the way. Doing special edition packs and boxes. This is like the Pacific Bitcoin right here, 2023. So to do something really special like that, it's not cheap. I wish no one prints at these numbers. There's a reason why no one prints at these numbers, because the margins are crap and it's really difficult to get any price break when you're only printing 1,200 packs. So that one's highly difficult, but we work with the conferences and we will do commemorative packs for them there and figure out a way to collaborate with them on that to where the cost is potentially nothing to them. And the Genesis packs are the perfect one. We just donated for Bitcoin Day coming up next month in Florida, and I just donated all the packs to him for free, and we'll have a couple people from the team that'll be there, and whatever we can do to help. That's the biggest thing with these. And yeah, we're trying to make it like, this is not about a money grab in any way, shape, or form. This is just, I think we have major potential here to use this Trojan horse to get Bitcoin out to more people than we ever imagined, and a lot quicker than we ever imagined.
Love it, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for everything you're doing for Bitcoin. And yeah, let's fucking go. 2024 is going to be incredible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel.
See you, man.